Hey everyone, Jamie Starr here for the New World News Network. First off, let me apologize for this sort of impromptu setup. I've borrowed my niece's selfie ring light. This shit is all up in my face and it's kind of blinding, but the other option was to just use my usual overhead light and open the windows, and the sun is like beaming off the snow, so it's just like bright white behind me. So we're working with what we got right now. I do have new lights, a green screen coming. That's all going to be used not as much for the news channel stuff, but for live music performances. I have some really fun stuff in store with all of that. I'm hoping to have weekly DJ sets put out that you'll be able to watch me performing them live. Then I'll also be uploading the tracks as a mix, and I'm really pushing far more into the music aspect. This is for a handful of reasons. It's for the cultural war push. We see this week Gina Carano being fired, but then immediately starting to work with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. Tim Pool had put out a call for creators. He was looking for more video stuff. I sent him and Lydia from Timcast basically my music related resume. Let's hope something comes of it. Because I mean, honestly, I think my biggest problem is I suck at branding. I mean, I told them the story of what I was able to do with the torrents and sort of trolling the music industry. It's it's really annoying sometimes that I can like troll the BBC into creating an artist page for a fake musician, but yet I can't get sustainable enough attention to myself in one area. Now, granted, I checked my ASCAP statements. Whoever stole my music and is selling it on the streaming sites, thank you for getting me hundreds of thousands of spins on music I wish no one would listen to ever. Like, I wish this music would get the Alex Jones treatment, and yet I'm getting royalty checks off of it. It's a really fucked up position to be in, but I guess that's the price I pay for what I did to, Britney Spears and Daft Punk and Kanye West, and, basically vandalizing all of their releases for a while there. But anyway, the real thing I wanted to talk about is something that's been just sort of like on my mind a lot lately, especially since the January 6th thing. And, there was a point in time where I was getting more active on Facebook. I had stayed away from it, I deleted my account. Then I was using it for, Messenger and talking to Paul and all that. And then finally I was like, you know what? If everyone's getting banned and I have the ability to speak on this platform and I have the balls to speak, I gotta put what I have to say out there. Now here's the problem. I mean, part of it's with me because like my three long-term relationships in my early 20s, latter teens were all like the girls who went into education. So I have to constantly check myself, is my hatred of academia a sort of resentment towards them, which it's really not, I don't think, because it's like it's whatever. Those were just failed relationships. I'm in a relationship now. I'm completely happy with it, so it's whatever. Um but I did have fond memories of high school. I met a great friend, Dana Sky, who went on to be an MTV VJ, and somehow I sent her a link to something, and next thing I know, she's calling me like, "Hey, I'm working with 50 Cent now." And every so often we run into each other, and sweetest girl. I mean, so I'm grateful I went to college for a brief moment in time to hang out with her. We both dropped out. But here's the thing that's okay. So in my Facebook, you know, timeline, it is still a lot of people I know from school, and unfortunately, a lot of the people I know from school they're all academics now, really. Like they're all teachers, and it's like when I scroll this timeline, I see the most vile hatred I mean, just like this crazy witch hunt that they are, there's evil people out there, and it's our job to protect the children and to arm the children to be able to defend against the Nazis and all of this. So, I mean, and it's like, so it's, you have these academics who, I mean, drug and alcohol problems and failed relationships left and right, like their personal lives are nothing to aspire to. They are then in this warped reality created by the mainstream media, and then they are trying to say, well, I need to raise these children in a way that will prepare them for this warped artificial fucking mainstream media drug induced reality that they think they are in. And every so often I will try as hard as I can to tiptoe and reason with them, where I'll be like, hey man, weren't you the same person that everyone thought it was odd you had a poster up of like the GOP, like the Reagan Nixon GOP in your classroom? Um, if you're really putting out the idea that like the right wing is full of neo Nazis, don't you think we're going to end up with a needle in a haystack problem here, where it's going to be harder to find the actual bad actors because we've broadened this out? And anytime I ask them, like, well, how do you feel about us being run by a bunch of 80-plus-year-old lawyers who probably don't have a firm grasp of technological innovations or whatever? And the conversation will just dead. Now, if you're screaming Orange Man bad, they're all with it, grab the pitchforks. But I'm telling you, teachers, librarians, even people I thought were musicians. This is the one that's really bothering me lately. So, when I went to school in my jazz band, there was me as the bass player. Now me, I am the Nirvana guy. So I'm just like, fuck it. If I can read the music, I'm good to read the music. I'm fast and loose, and I'm just gonna work my way through with style. Like I'm not gonna play great, but I'm gonna make it look good. So, and to some extent, that's always been my thing. Like, all friends of me, they'll be like, "Oh, well, Jamie knows music theory," and I'm like, "No, I intentionally ignore it. Like, I like to know what song key we're working on, like what the chords are, so I don't hit a bad note, but I'm not doing calculations." Like, and I'm sure for anyone who's heard me talk about my perspectives on music before, I do say songs are like a Rubik's Cube, but I'm not calculating where the pieces fit. When I hear it, I know it, and I'm like, okay, that fits. That's what works. That's what we're going with. I'm not dilly dallying or fucking playing around or anything like that. So anyway, I was the bass player. That was my style. Very, grunge, Nirvana. I'm in post-hardcore bands and stuff. So playing fast and loose and just making it look good while I do it. And then we had a guitar player who was mind-boggling good, especially at his age. I mean, I, I have no recollection of him sucking. Like, everyone has a bad day. I can't imagine him having a bad day. As a freshman, he was keeping up with the college kids that would come back and play with the jazz band. Like, if there was one person that you were to go to me and say, well, if there, if you were to go to me and say, who out of the people you were in did music with as a high schooler, who do you think would wind up doing it professionally? Now, there was a cello player who her ass was off in Germany doing it professionally practically before she was out of high school. She's a sweet girl. I've run into her every so often since we've graduated, and just super sweet, super happy for whatever you're into and everything like that. So I mean, shout out to her. If she ever heard me saying that, she'd know I'm talking about her. So shout out to her. She is awesome, and I hope she's still doing her thing. But then there was this guitar player, and you would expect him to be, I mean, just like he should be on the road with like as Beyonce's guitarist or something. Like, for real, he should be a touring musician on whoever is the top of the top with doing things like that. But so I've had very little interaction with him, but then January 6th rolls around, and I see him posting this thing saying, we don't have anything in common with these people except the dirt we stand on and paying taxes. And I'm like, whoa, that is an insane level of dehumanization. So I commented saying, that's some Nazi level shit. For you to be saying you have nothing in common with these people except for the fact you're all forced to pay taxes and the dirt you stand on. Like, it's been sitting with me and eating me alive. And there is a part of me that wants to pick a fight over this still, even though I just laid out that comment. Now, afterwards, he tried commenting back and was like, "Oh, Jamie, I have fond memories of you, this, and that." And I was like, yeah, I remember you too. You fucking, let me tell you what it is. So then I ripped into him and I was like, and here's the crazy part. Okay, so in his initial spiel, it had all this about toxic masculinity and, white privilege and all this. And I just go off and I say, listen, what you're saying here, the average person probably can't read through the lines of all of your little academic buzzwords and virtue signaling. And I don't even know if you know what you're saying, but who you're talking about is poor people. You're talking about poor people who are more concerned with feeding their families and getting off of opiates than toxic masculinity and all of your crazy social causes. Um, so then of course I find out, oh well, why is this person who should be a touring musician spouting off all of this academic buzzword nonsense? Because they're an academic. They are a There's a saying, those that can't do teach. So I will say he is a failed guitarist turned teacher at Berklee School of Music. Same college he went to, he's now teaching at. That's a sign of a failed guitarist. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And here's the other part that ties into it where I feel really bad. And again, I don't want to start a fight, but part of me really wants to engage with him and be like, dude, what went wrong with your life? And the funny part is I'm sure a lot of people could look at me and say, what went wrong with you? But I've been putting out music consistently. I've been putting out my friends' music that has got them touring in France and Africa and stuff like that. I'm working 2 jobs I really enjoy, that I really love. I mean, besides saving up to move to a different state, I'm content. I am happy. Now, I'm sure they're content and they're happy, but I don't see them utilizing their skills and their potential and everything like that. I mean, I'm posting stuff on the news. I'm, setting up this web page. And again, maybe I spread myself too thin, but I am creatively in. So anyway, so then I see the same person, and this is how I found out they were an academic. I see them posting, "Hey, would anyone be interested in paying, I think it was like $50 a week, for me to teach them a songwriting class? It's going to be the same class I teach at Berklee, but I'm going to teach it on Zoom." And I'm looking at this being like, what? What? Why? Why would you do that? I mean, I am still getting paid money from tutorial videos I've done, like little rinky dink, oh yeah, here's me playing around in Output's new sampler program from 3 or 4 years ago. Why would you say, oh, well, I only want to teach these 20 some odd people that were going to pay me $50 whenever up front, instead of just making the class? Then you could sell it on Skillshare or Masterclass or the great courses, or fucking just put it on YouTube and get the ad revenue. And you could have more people watch it and consume it than you could ever one-on-one set up in a Zoom call. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And this ties back to the whole thing of, not only are these academics disgusting people in most cases, with insane egos, I mean, you think doctors are bad getting to play God all day long with people's healths? These academics need to be taken down a couple notches at least. Um, but then you see like this sort of antiquated, outdated, like even when they're trying to get with the times and adapt to the situation, it still is like this, oh, well, I'm trying to survive and keep my head above water and innovate, but the only way I know how to innovate is still in the approved mediums of the status quo. And I'm just looking at this being like, what happened? Why are you doing this to yourself? You have so much talent, and yet I can just crank out songs all day long and working with. And here's another thing. All right, so if you saw my last video, I was talking about that writer and the COVID not feeling sexy and not wanting to have kids and all this stuff, and then the person saying we should just import them from Africa. And the funniest part about doing that video is the day after, I'm on a Zoom call with a guy I'm producing with who's in Africa. And I'm telling him this story. I'm like, dude, all right, let's put the work on pause. I said, I got some funny shit to tell you. And I mean, this was sort of our like icebreaker conversation. Um, and he is rolling. He is like, these people over there. The funniest part, so after I tell him, like, yo, there's these white women that are like, I don't get to birth my baby into luxury, so let's go kidnap some kids from Africa type shit. And he's telling me, he's like, when I first heard your music, I thought you were black. Then I saw a picture of you, I was like, oh shit, he's white. Now I'm talking to you and I realize you are black. And the crazy part about it is these same people that would look at their fellow Americans and say, we don't have anything in common with them except dirt and this and that, would look at some fucking villager in Africa walking over to a stream with a jug and be like, well, besides the economic conditions, you don't even realize how much we have in common with these people. We are all one. We are the world. Kumbaya, this and that. And they have no idea that the default position in Africa is basically hardline right-wing American politics. Like, it's like God above all, family above all. Like, that's the insane part about it. That is the insane part about it, is that these fucking privileged white people and these academics have absolutely zero concept of these other cultures, and the fact that these other cultures are far, 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 far more in line than right-wing American conservative values, than their sort of neoliberal, globalist, whatever. So, fuck these academics. It's all ridiculous. I can't stand this bright light in front of me anymore, but I think that's about it for my rant. I just had to get that off my chest because that's really been driving me crazy. And it's just so funny how, again, these people virtue signal sort of on behalf of all these peoples and these diverse cultures from all the corners of the world and everything like that. And would think someone like me is beyond the pale because I'm like, no, abortion is fucked up. I've been there. I've had to, make that choice with a girl before, whether you think it's my choice or not. I was asked for an opinion. I regret having input in it, whatever. My beliefs are the government should be limited. They're just people. They're not magical. Like, a government can go as bad as a corporation, and when the two work together, it's even worse. Everyone in the details. There's even another friend of mine where he thought we had big political differences because of the way I would verbalize things, where I'd be like, we should abolish 90% of these agencies. And he's like, but our country would be weakened, national security, foreign enemies. And that's the point that's been drilled into people's head. And so my rebuttal to that was, what does alcohol have to do with tobacco and firearms? And he goes, nothing really, that's stupid. I said, okay, so we're both okay with getting rid of the ATF? And he goes, yeah. I say, okay. I said, the FDA has a lethal dosage 50 test. Anything to get approved has to be able to kill you. would we say that that's probably stopping positive treatments that don't have negative side effects, and maybe we should let the states decide instead of one deciding all and then they can learn from each other? He's like, yeah, sure. I said, okay, when you go out to eat somewhere, are you more likely to check somewhere's state health inspectors or their Yelp reviews? And he says, Yelp reviews. I said, that's what I'm saying. When there is a better option that is already superseding what the government's offering, let's lean into that. I'm not saying get rid of the military or anything crazy like that. I'm saying let's get rid of these alphabet agencies and find better ways to do this. There's a reason we have FedEx and UPS. There's no reason it has to be the government. The government is comprised of people. People are people regardless. So we're still going to have people providing these things. We are just not going to have all of the red tape and the monopolistic aspects to it. And my friend was like, you know what? I actually do agree with you a lot. And even we were going through some of the things where I was like, this is presented as a conspiracy theory. I said, and the thing with all these conspiracy theories is they always take it an extra step too far so that it seems ridiculous. I said, you want to talk environmentalism? They scoff. Alex Jones says they're turning the frogs gay. I said, well, here's articles from science publications about amphibians and birth control runoff and pesticides altering their reproductive organs and killing entire colonies of animals. I said, but we can't talk about this because it will then bring up the conversation about what role do hormones play in human gender and behavior, and then it's, oh, well, you're saying it's transphobic or whatever. I said, and meanwhile these important conversations can't be had. He's like, you know what, man, you're really more on top of this stuff and have points that I didn't think of. And we do agree, and we do have the same concerns. We might have slightly different ideas on the best outputs or outcomes and ways to deal with it, but we weren't that far off. And that's the thing, is when you actually engage these people in conversation, most people come to that realization. But these academics are a fucking problem, and they need to be stopped.